Super Bowl halftime became a cultural lightning rod, and not just because of the music. We'll also explain why the NFL keeps booking the biggest stars, even when executives get a little nervous. Then Lindsey Vonn, against all odds, Olympic comeback ends in a terrifying crash. After that, a 52-year-old snowboarder makes Winter Olympic history and shrugs off the idea of too old. We'll pivot to publishing, where romance novels are being cranked out with AI, and readers are furious, at least some readers. And finally, a deleted social media post sparks a rare wave of Republican pushback. All that and more today on Filtered. Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker. Welcome to Filtered. I'm TJ Walker. Thanks so much for joining me today. It was the cultural media event of the year, at least here in the United States. What we call football is a big deal still in the United States. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime love letter. According to the Times, Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show played like a love letter to Puerto Rico, a sugarcane field, a wedding tableau, a New York street scene with a bodega, and a Pan-American parade of flags. The music leaned into Latin rhythms with more live, organic energy than glossy electronics. Lady Gaga appeared for a salsa-style moment, and Ricky Martin joined in to underline the broader legacy of Latin's pop crossover. The message wasn't delivered as a speech, it was delivered as imagery, and Bad Bunny threaded into subtle references to Puerto Rico's anxieties, cultural displacement, overdevelopment, and the everyday reality of power failures, while still keeping the set bright, communal, and celebratory. He ended by spiking a football stamped with "Together We Are America," and said in Spanish, "We're still here." The reaction was predictably split. Praise for representation, backlash from culture war corners. Okay, I did watch it. I had a football party, Super Bowl watching party at my home last night, had a fantastic time. All of us watched it, and careful, I'm going to give you my reaction, but hold on for a minute. I'll tell you what my reaction means. When I listened to his performance and watched it, I didn't dislike it. I didn't particularly like it. I was just sort of left with ho-hum. Now, that says a lot more about me than it does about him. All that really tells you is I'm old, okay? At least I'm willing to admit it. Other people who took such horribly negative responses to Bad Bunny, I think it says more about them than it does the musical excellence or capabilities of Bad Bunny. Let's look at some of the facts. He is extraordinarily popular, but let's look at some facts about the Super Bowl and Bad Bunny. The Super Bowl averaged 127 million viewers. Now, this is in a time where most people, if they're on broadcast TV, would love to get 3 million. So this is still a big, big deal. The peak audience hit 137 million people. So you're hitting really more than a third of the entire United States, counting babies, infants, people in old folks' homes, you name it. This has huge, huge audience. So the NFL season, the average game averaged 18.7 million views per game. It really is the top-rated form of entertainment in the United States. Again, I'm a cultural outlier here. I watch one game a year. I should say, to be accurate, I watch one half of a game each year. I watch the first half of the Super Bowl, then I watch the halftime show, and then that's pretty much it. It's lights out for me at that point. Bad Bunny is Spotify's global #1 artist in terms of streams, and it's the fourth time he's done this. Bad Bunny logged 19.8 billion Spotify streams in 2025. For those of you keeping score, that's a few more streams than those who listen to Filter with TJ Walker. He beat us just by a few. Bad Bunny has 18.3 million monthly Spotify listeners most recently. So we're talking about a huge, huge, huge audience. People love him. Rock Nation produced the halftime show. They've been doing so since 2019. They get to select the artist, I think, presumably with veto power to the NFL. And why did they do that? They want what's popular. When you're trying to get an audience of more than 100 million people in America, that's not the time to try to play to the Lee Greenwood set. Those of you old enough to remember, he's a favorite among conservatives who have white hair. Nothing against white hair or gray hair, but you're not going to get that type of an audience for a Lee Greenwood concert. So the NFL is very shrewd and very savvy about trying to appeal to the masses. They are perhaps the last of true mass entertainment in American culture today, arguably more so than movies and many other forms of pop culture. Now, the reaction was not universally positive. First, let's look at what the head of the NFL said, Commissioner Goodall. He said, I don't want to pick the music that I listen to. So he's at least self-aware enough to know that just because what appeals to him as a over 60 man is not the same thing that's going to appeal to the widest masses. So he didn't just pick his favorite singer. He didn't get a hologram image of Tony Bennett or Frank Sinatra if he likes those. Now, the response was not, again, universally praiseworthy. President Trump said, it makes no sense, an affront to the greatness of America, and nobody understands what he's saying. Okay. This is sort of typical of what you would expect from Donald Trump. He projects whatever his feelings are on everyone else because he doesn't speak Spanish. He just assumes nobody else in America speaks Spanish. Well, guess what? It is the second most popular language in America. True, it's not an official language of the United States, but it's a very popular language. So that's part of it. The second part is, for music, many people don't really care about what language it's in. They like the melody, the mood, the essence, the emotion of it, the sound of it. So for many people around the world, they don't really care what language music is in. I know for me, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. I don't really hear the words to songs in any language, so it doesn't make much of a difference to me. But one thing I know is you don't want to have me picking the music for halftime at the NFL either. Put me in the Roger Goodell camp. I would love to hear Robert Plant perform live at halftime, but all that really says is I'm old. He was, by the way, the lead singer of Led Zeppelin, which founded in 1968 and ended in 1980. So that clearly wouldn't be the way to get 30-some million people to watch. So what else does this really tell us? To me, it's a fascinating lens into, frankly, the beauty of capitalism, the beauty of the marketplace, in that businesses that care about money, they care about reaching consumers and customers and appealing to them to cause growth, to cause revenues that can be shared, not necessarily equally, but revenues are shared between team owners and players and coaches, a couple of crumbs to the other staff. We'll leave that debate for another day. But to me, that's the beauty of capitalism. Far different from what happens in authoritarian regimes, where in authoritarian regimes, people do things just to appeal to the dear leader. Nobody in North Korea is trying to figure out how to perform a halftime entertainment or any kind of entertainment at a military parade. All they're worried about is keeping dear leader happy so they don't get their heads chopped off. And thankfully, we live in a world where the commissioner of the NFL doesn't think, my number one concern is making dear leader in Washington happy with us. So let me pick entertainment that dear leader would like. No, they are still listening to the dictates of the marketplace, which I think, frankly, is a good thing. It's a positive thing. We do not want our most important cultural events skewed away from the marketplace, going towards appealing to one authoritarian leader. Now, is something good just because it's popular? Not necessarily. But you know what? There's a perfect solution. If you didn't like Bad Bunny, A, you didn't have to watch the Super Bowl at all. B, you're told basically how long it would be once halftime starts. You could just go spend a half an hour on another channel or going out for a walk or talking to friends or family if you had a Super Bowl party. So no one was forced to watch this message. Now, interestingly, some were concerned that Bad Bunny would make this overtly political because he did speak up against ICE at the most recent Grammy Awards. And this halftime performance was largely apolitical. It was an ode to his beloved Puerto Rico and the culture and the people there and people throughout Central and Latin America. And it was a very positive, uplifting message. He didn't use the opportunity to say an obscenity coupled with the President of the United States name. He didn't do that. He could have. Wouldn't have blamed him, but that's not what he did. So I think a lot of people seeing him for the first time, and I was one of them. I mean, I'd seen him before speak in places like the Grammys. I was not aware of ever having heard him perform. Again, for me, I'm not going to pander to you. I'm not going to say, oh, greatest music I've ever heard. It didn't really grab me, but it takes a while for me to get used to any music if I'm hearing it for the first time. What did you think? I would love to hear from you. If you saw the NFL halftime show with Bad Bunny, please leave a review right here on Facebook, on this channel, and on this video. I'm TJ Walker. We have a lot more filtered coming up. If you're new to the show, every day I look at the top 5 business, economic, sometimes sports, cultural, AI, and other topics of the day, filtered through the lens of personal development skills. Like what you heard? Don't let the algorithm bury us. Subscribe now at substack.com/@TJWalkerSuccess. Want direct access to me live? Want to unlock bonus episodes, behind the scenes takes, and full access to my premium courses? Then become a member today. Just go to tjwalker.com/members and choose your preferred platform, YouTube, Patreon, whatever works for you. This isn't just another subscription. It's a full access pass to the tools, coaching, and content that can transform your communication and career. tjwalker.com/members. I'll see you inside. Before we dive in, quick question. Are your communication skills helping or hurting your career? Fix that in 20 minutes a day. Visit MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Real skills, real results. Lindsey Vonn's comeback ends in a brutal crash. Lindsey Vonn's attempt to pull off one of the most improbable Olympic medals in modern skiing ended Sunday in disaster. She crashed just 13.4 seconds into the women's downhill final in Cortina and broke her left leg. Vonn had been racing in a brace only 9 days after rupturing the ACL in her left knee, a timeline that stunned many doctors and fans, and she never made it to the first marker before tumbling violently and hitting her head. She was quickly surrounded by medical staff, strapped to a stretcher, and airlifted off the mountain by helicopter. Officials said later surgery was needed to stabilize the leg. The course in Cortina is Vonn's favorite. She has 12 World Cup wins there. And her comeback was built around the dream of one last medal. And here's the line that captured the defiance behind it. Said just a day earlier, my ACL is 100% ruptured. It's 100% gone within seconds on Sunday. So was the run. Okay, what are we to make of this? And I apologize. I have nothing but respect for Lindsey Vonn, her athletic determination, her career, her tenacity, her ability to withstand pain. Believe me, she's able to withstand a lot of pain. I can't withstand any pain. People come up to me and touch me. I'm like, ouch. So I'm certainly not tougher. I'm not even 0.1% as tough as she is. So let me be very categorical about that. But I do have to weigh in on this. I'm a personal development expert. I do communication skills training, personal development training, goal setting, positive thinking. Nobody likes positive thinking more than I do. But, and this is a big but, there is a difference between positive thinking and being delusional. If you have not just torn your ACL, but ripped it apart, you can't ski. It was totally predictable. I mean, it almost makes me wonder about her handlers and her staff and her coaches. How could they even let her do that? I mean, if someone can have a great attitude, but if they're in a car crash and they're now paralyzed from the waist down, and someone says you're now going to run the 100-yard sprint just like you always did, and you get up there and you just fall down instantly, it's kind of just sad. Someone was taken advantage of. I don't know who the culprit was here. But again, positive thinking and the law of attraction, visualize it and you'll manifest it. Parts of that are okay. Every great Olympian at some point was probably a small child and they saw someone win the gold medal and they visualized that for themselves and they worked and worked and worked for the next 12, 14 years, and they made it happen quite often. But just because you visualize it doesn't mean it will work. If you have no ACL, there's nothing, again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a physiologist, but there's nothing keeping your leg from just crumpling up like tinfoil, essentially. So again, positive attitude is good, but you do need some perspective of physical reality. I'm 63 years old. I could have the most positive attitude in the entire world. I could chant mantras every day, 14 hours a day, saying, TJ, you will become an NBA center. You will become a center in the National Basketball Association and start. I could say that a gazillion times. It's not going to happen. I'm 5'11" and a half, 63 years old, of at best average athleticism. So I'm not going to become a center in the NBA. Positive thinking, having a good attitude, law of attraction, affirmations don't solve all problems. At some point, if you suffer a serious injury and completely severing your ACL is, by any sports doctor's estimate, a serious injury. You don't then make matters worse, jeopardize your life by trying to compete at the highest levels of humanity at the Olympics. So apologies, some will say, well, TJ, you should simply be in awe of Lindsey Vonn. I am in awe of Lindsey Vonn. But it doesn't make me shut my brain down. It doesn't make me lose the capacity for rational thought. So this is near and dear to my heart because there's a camp of people who say, well, anyone who talks about personal development is just spewing nonsense. They're trying to prey upon people, sell them a bunch of worthless tapes and supplements and other nonsense. And it's all nonsense. There's that camp. And then there are people who say, well, all you need is a positive attitude. You can solve anything with a positive attitude. I'm in between there. I think you do need a positive attitude. You do need goals. Affirmations are helpful. Trying to manifest what is on your vision board or your vision or your goals are all good things and are often essential to achieving huge success. But it's not enough if you don't have certain, especially in the realm of athletics, if you don't have certain physical starting points, it's not going to work. There's no 5'11" center in the history of NBA. So the idea that I would be the first is an absurdity. There's nobody who wins skiing championships with torn ACLs where most people would not be able to walk from their hospital bed to the bathroom without assistance. There's just no history of that. There's no rational reason to conclude that that would be a good idea. So again, I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way of Lindsey Vonn, but This just seemed like a profoundly bad idea. I mean, she only got 13 seconds down the hill, and I couldn't even bear to watch it. If you watched it, you can share your assessment. But this just seemed delusional. Again, I'm all in favor of big dreams. And there's many, many examples of a young 19-year-old entrepreneur starting a business, and everyone said you're delusional. And 9 years later, they're a billionaire because they made it go public. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy to do a tech startup, but physically, if you can go without sleep and work hard, it is easier than winning an Olympic downhill skiing race. So that's the bizarre thing. Now, she did post the third fastest training time on Saturday, reaching speeds of 78 miles per hour. I don't know how she did that. That to me seems utterly bizarre. But, when your ACL is 100% ruptured, that just seems like, okay, maybe it's time to go have a cup of hot cocoa at the ski lodge. Maybe you watch other people. Maybe cheer on your teammates. Maybe not take the spot in the roster where another athlete who's not injured at all could take the place. Look, I'm not accusing her of being selfish. I just think there's a little bit of delusion there. If you think you're going to compete at the highest realm of athletics with ruptured ACL. I hope she has a full recovery. If she wants to compete again and is physically healthy, great. I'll be cheering her on. But I do want to stress to the rest of us, positive attitude is important. Visualizing your goals being completed, important. Affirmations, important. Having a can-do attitude, important. But having a sense of reality and limitations that are really meaningful, also important. I have a goal of becoming one of the most successful podcasters in the history of the world. But if all of a sudden something happens to my tongue and my tongue is removed and I can't speak anymore, then I'm going to go to plan B. I'll focus on being a writer or doing something else. Filtered is brought to you by the following. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Want to become a better speaker, leader, or communicator? Start with the TJ Walker Success Library. It's 5 of my most practical books, covering everything from public speaking to meeting interviews and persuasive messaging, all for only $9.95. I've trained presidents and Fortune 500 CEOs, and now you can get the same wisdom in a fast, affordable format. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download your copies instantly. Thanks for listening. If you like today's episode, you'll love my online courses at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Check them out now and level up your skills. Claudia Riegler, 52, becomes the oldest female Winter Olympian. In Italy, snowboarder Claudia Riegler just made Olympic history. She was 52 years old, becoming the oldest female athlete ever to compete at the Winter Olympic Games. She reached the round of 16 in the parallel giant slalom before losing to two-time Olympic champion Esther Ledecky, 22 years younger. But Riegler's tone afterward wasn't regret. It was delight. Riegler had been competing forever by sports standards. A World Cup debut in 1994, a career built on precision, speed, and staying power. She says she was told at 30 that she was, quote, too old and headed downhill, and not in a good way. Instead, she kept going for more than 2 decades and even won a world championship at 41. Her philosophy is brutally simple. We set our own limits. She credits listening to her body, staying mentally flexible, and trying new training methods to avoid getting stuck. Milan Cortina is her final Olympics, but her message to women in sports is clear. Don't let other people declare your expiration date. Okay, this is related to, but also contrasting with Lindsey Vonn. Something tells me that if This champion, or this, she was a champion a few years ago. Claudia Riegler had torn her ACL or broken her leg the day before her last race. She wouldn't have run, but she was still competing at an extraordinarily high caliber. Now, it's very unusual for an athlete in any sport to be truly, truly competitive at 52. Yes, there are senior rounds, and certain golfers are still pretty good at 52. But in general, for most highly competitive sports in the world, it's almost impossible for someone to remain viable at 52. So I give her tremendous credit for being out there and competing, and for reaching the round of 16. So that really means out of the millions and millions and millions of women skiers in the world, she's better than all but 16, or at least among the top 16. That is an extraordinary accomplishment. I like her attitude. She says, we set our own limits. I can still compete with these young guns. Again, you could say, well, TJ, it sounds like you weren't saying that about Lindsey Vonn a few minutes ago. I respect Lindsey Vonn. I respect her tenacity, her competitive zeal. But at some point, you do have to listen to your body. If your ACL says, hey, we're broken, don't put any pressure on us, you have to listen to that. And that is what this Olympian, Claudia Riegler, did say. She listened to her body. And she stressed that she had fun. She wasn't bemoaning the fact of, oh, no, it's my last Olympics. I didn't win the gold. She said, it was a fun day. It was an amazing day. This was her 5th Olympic appearance. That alone is a huge, huge accomplishment. And to lose to someone 22 years younger than you, to lose someone who could be your own child, is also amazing. She's won a total of 41 gold world championships. That's fantastic. She uses something called neuromental coach training, avoids junk food, and in many ways is a great role model, not just for women, but certainly for women, but for all people. I've seen countless individuals, friends, colleagues, they're 52. They're like, oh, I haven't skated in 15 years. I'm too old for that. Okay. If you don't like skiing, don't do it. If you've already torn up your knee, don't do it. But this idea that just because you're a certain age means you shouldn't do something and you're still physically capable, I don't buy that. I mean, as some of you know, I went skiing last week. I went on Black Diamond slopes in Utah. Now, I do have certain limitations. Personally, I don't like to do moguls. I don't race anymore. I don't like mountains that are covered with sheer ice. I personally don't like going through the trees. I had some friends lead me through some trees on a path last week. Didn't seem like it. And then boom, I hit a tree. Fortunately, no injury because I wasn't going very fast. So it's a fine line. You need to know what you're comfortable with. You need to know your limitations, but they need to be your limitations, not artificial limitations that other people have hoisted upon you. That's what I think is truly, truly important here. Pick your own limitations. I'm TJ Walker. This is Filtered. This is the show where we look at the top news stories, business stories, technology stories, culture stories of the day, and filter them through the lens of personal development. I do find it personally motivating when I see a woman 52 years old competing against not just people her own age, not that there's anything wrong with that, but with the very strongest, best, most athletic human beings on the planet of any age, including teenagers. That is something to truly marvel at and respect. What are you willing to compete against of any age? Tell me what it is. I think my days are gone as far as really beating a really, really fast 25-year-old who's a good skier down the mountains. But I still like to think I can compete in other areas in terms of perhaps creating more podcasts than anyone else in the world of any age on personal development. So what is it where you're trying to compete? I do think there's something extraordinarily powerful about the idea of giving yourself a goal of trying to be the best in the world at something. And it could be something no one else really cares about, but it could mean something to you. A number of years ago, you could see one of the books behind me right there, The Secret to Foolproof Presentations. In order to promote that book, I attempted to set a world record for most talk show appearances ever in the history of the world in a 24-hour period. Now, you could say, well, TJ, that's a bit grandiose to talk about that in the same sentence you're talking about Olympic athletes. I'm not saying the two are similar, but it is the same in the sense that I was trying to be number one in something, to distinguish myself, to get into the record books. And I'm happy to say that we did it. My partner and I, Jess Todfeld, did, I believe it was 114 talk shows in 24 hours and set the record. 94 of them got the official certification, which still put us in the record books. And to this day, we are the number one record holder as a duo for most talk show appearances by two people in 24 hours in the history of the world. So a fun little tidbit. It didn't take great athleticism. It just took a bunch of coffee staying up for 24 hours. But congratulations to Claudia. It's fantastic to have such, not just an excellent career with many career highlights, but a long career. So hats off to you. Imagine having a communication coach who never sleeps. Meet your new secret weapon, the TJ Walker AI clone. Go to tjwalker.ai and start getting custom coaching 24/7. No scheduling, no hourly fees. I've trained presidents, prime ministers, and Fortune 500 CEOs. But the same exact communication I've delivered to world leaders is now available to you online, anytime at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Whether you're speaking on camera, pitching a client, or handling a crisis, you need these tools. These aren't fluffy motivational videos. They're practical, battle-tested techniques to help you speak clearly, competently, and persuasively. Go to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com and take your communication to the next level. The new Fabio is Claude. AI romance floods the market. According to the Times, the romance industry, already famous for moving fast with new tech, is now being flooded with AI-assisted novels. And one chatbot, Claude, has become a surprising favorite for elegant prose. Romance author Coral Hart ran an experiment. Over 8 months, she created 21 pen names and published dozens of books, eventually producing more than 200 romance novels in a year and selling about 50,000 copies total, earning six figures. But the reporting is blunt about the limitations. Chatbots struggle with the very thing romance readers crave: slow burning tension, emotional nuance, and believable intimacy. Some systems refuse explicit content. Others produce mechanical, rushed scenes. Hart teaches authors how to coax AI into better romance, including detailed prompts, ick lists of banned phrases, and tightly controlled scene structure. The backlash, however, is intense. Readers say romance is about human vulnerability, and authors worry real work is getting buried under algorithmic volume. The genre is now a test case for whether good enough can outcompete real. Okay, what are we to make of this AI created romance novel? So I'm going to say a few things here that will make me unpopular with my fellow creators, my fellow podcasters, my fellow influencers, many of whom believe I'm so superior to AI, I can never be replaced by a clone or a chatbot or AI. I got to tell you, I'm not so sure. I was recently at the Podfest convention where top podcasters from all over the world gather for 3 or 4 days in Orlando, Florida. And the consensus there was good podcasters and great podcasters don't have anything to worry about because AI is just capable of putting out slop, and discerning listeners will be able to see that and punish it, and they won't like it. Similarly, those in the literature world believe that AI will never write a great novel, or apparently, according to some of the fans of these romance novels, even an average one. I'm not so sure. Because when you look at so many romance novels, they're kind of all the same thing. Now, I haven't seen any AI write a sitcom script that's gone on to break records in the ratings on a major network, but it's coming. Let's not kid ourselves, folks. So many aspects of pop culture, whether it's a romance novel, whether it's a rom-com movie, whether it's a sitcom, it follows established patterns. It follows formulas. Well, one thing we know about AI is it's really good at, first of all, discerning the formula and then following it and creating new things by inserting a few things here and there. And maybe most of them won't be truly great. But if the average author creates, let's say, a dozen works in a lifetime and creates one or two hits, let's say the AI is not nearly as good at the hit rate. So if an author who is successful has a 10% success rate, what if an AI has only a 0.1% success rate? If it can create 1,000 different new works a week, that's one big hit a week. It doesn't take long for that to compound and grow and become so overwhelming that it can push humans out of the way. So I wish I could be more upbeat and tell you, well, no, the humans will always be ahead of AI. We don't know that. Now, as many observers have noted in the past, there's never in the history of the planet been a situation where some being of greater intelligence didn't ultimately control everything else on the planet. Human beings, their brains developed to the point where they had more intelligence than lions and tigers and bears and chimps, and we now rule them. They have to do whatever we say. Well, if artificial intelligence continues to make improvements, as by all accounts it is, it will be more intelligent than humans, which means it could, frankly, should control us. It could and should create not only romance novels, but other kinds of novels, literature, works of nonfiction, sitcom. It should ultimately be able to do it in a way that is frankly more appealing to the average reader, listener, viewer out there. So I am much less, I'm an optimist by nature, but I'm not optimistic that humans will always have the number one place in creative output. Coral Hart says, if I can generate a book in a day and you need 6 months, who's going to win the race? Now, she's talking about using AI as a tool to help her create so many more books. But what if the AI doesn't need Coral Hart? Now, Elizabeth Ann West says, eventually readers will not care. That's the point I think so many writers, authors, experts, podcasters, those in the creative world are not being honest with themselves. We tell ourselves, yes, we're indispensable. Our fans, our followers, our readers love us so much they wouldn't possibly want anything other than us. We don't know that. Now, we do know in the music world, for example, a lot of people love AI-generated music. The number one hit just a month or so ago on the country music charts was completely AI-generated. There have now been a handful of wildly successful AI-generated music artists, breaking charts, selling tons and tons of music, exploding in downloads. Guess what? Nobody seems to care. Now, the musicians care, the musicians' guilds care, some of the record labels care, but the people who actually decide winners and losers, the listeners, they don't seem to care. Let's look at some more facts. Romance is 20% of adult fiction sales, so it's pretty significant. Now, this woman published 200 novels in 1 year. She made six figures. Now, it's true. She's not Bad Bunny. She's not making tens and tens of millions of dollars a year. She's not J.K. Rowling, who's become a billionaire from her writing. But still, she sold 50,000 copies. She made six figures from her book sales. That puts her way, way, way in the top part of the top 1% of authors. So you have to believe that there are a lot of other authors looking at this, thinking, if she can do it, I can too. And more important, probably a lot of book publishers out there thinking, hey, if she can do it, what do I need these pesky writers? What do I need these pesky authors around for asking for their royalties? I'll just do it myself. I think we're close to seeing an age of entrepreneurialism among publishers who simply get rid of, they think of the writers, the authors as the middleman. They get rid of them altogether. They just push a few buttons program and they say, if 1,000 videos or 1,000 books in a year is good, why not 1,000 books a day? And if only a tiny, tiny fraction of less than 1% succeed, hey, I'll still make bank. How do you even find books, new books from real authors, if Amazon is flooded every day with thousands of books? That's something Amazon's going to have to figure out. Now, Claude, the AI platform, and I have not used Claude. I do still use ChatGPT. I use their paid version. Claude is praised for its prose. It seems to be better at this. The sex scenes, not so much. They're often seen as rushed and mechanical. The emotional buildup is not that great. Now, according to this story, disclosure is not required by Amazon. I know that in the past, when I have used AI to help rewrite my own words from transcripts from videos I've made, I know I had to sign something to Amazon saying that this was not created in any way by artificial intelligence. I don't know if they've changed that or not, but according to this story in the Times, disclosure is no longer required by Amazon. And AI detection is supposedly now easily bypassed. So if you did want to buy a book and you specifically did not want a book written by AI, they can simply apparently put in a prompt saying, change this prose either by putting in mistakes or typos to the point where it will fool the average AI detector, and it will do that. So what's the real message here? I think the message is you and I have to figure out, how do we ride this wave of human productivity as long as possible, in part by using AI ourselves? I don't mean I want you to write 100 romance novels in a day. But I do want you to think about, how can you take whatever core strength you do have, whatever asset you do have, whatever thing you do that helps the world more than anything else, how do you attach that, if possible, to some aspect of artificial intelligence so you can help more people? And you may say, well, TJ, I'm a home health care worker and I don't get paid a lot of money, but I really, really make the difference in certain senior citizens who don't have their friends or family ever come see them. I brighten their day and I make them happy. And I like to think I keep them alive an extra 5-10 years sometimes. Wonderful profession, needed a profession. You may want to think about, how do you do a podcast on that to help other home health care workers? How do you write a book that's still your voice, but using AI? Maybe you don't think of yourself as a good writer. You could simply ask ChatGPT to interview you, what it's like to be a home health care worker. And then you could ask it to turn it into a transcript. And then you could ask it to come up with an outline for a book on that topic using your words. And then you could ask it to write chapter 1. You could simply talk your way through a book that way, where it would be your ideas, and yet you're using AI to really, really help the world. So I want you to think about that, not how do we just check out and let AI do everything. and certainly not how to write another 1,000 cheesy romance novels that all kind of sound the same. But how do you take what's special about you and repackage it, put it on steroids, give it extra firepower so you can reach more people, help more people, and ideally help yourself as well? We'll be right back after this break. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Most people can't afford a full-time coach. And even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40 plus years of real-world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question, get feedback on your elevator pitch, rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to advertise to ambitious upscale professionals who actually care about communication, success, and results? Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. And no, we don't take ads for crypto, supplements, or junk food. Deleted post sparks rare Republican break. A notable number of Republican lawmakers publicly broke with the White House after a video was posted and later deleted from Donald Trump's social media account that depicted former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. Democrats condemned it immediately as racist. What made the day unusual was how many Republicans also condemned it and how quickly they did. The turning point was Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, the Senate's only Black Republican and a close Trump ally. He called the post the most racist thing he'd seen from the White House and demanded it be removed. That opened the door for others, including swing district Republicans and senior senators, to call the video offensive and unacceptable. The White House initially brushed off criticism, framing it as a Lion King meme, but then reversed course, removed the video, and blamed a staffer for posting it by mistake. Trump later said he hadn't watched the full clip, condemned the racist portion, and said it came down as soon as the problem was discovered. Okay. Look, I get it. Some of you like certain politicians. Some of you don't like certain politicians. We can't all be on the same page. And nobody wants to hear a political rant where the same day one talking head condemns someone on the other party every day again and again. I get it. But sometimes we've gone beyond the pale of normal political discourse in America. There was a time, quite frankly, in this nation's, going back to the founding of this country, there was a time when Black people were not considered human beings. They were considered chattel property. You beat them, and nobody thought, no white person at least, thought there was anything wrong with that. That was considered the way it was and the way it was supposed to be by many. Times changed. And in that transition time, when the people who said, you know what, maybe Black people deserve to be treated as human beings, maybe they shouldn't be beaten and enslaved and chained, maybe they should have the same rights as everyone else. We had a big war over that, okay? And the people in favor of not having slavery won in the United States. But in that transition time, the people who said, no, we really kind of like slavery. It's kind of a good thing. We still want white people to be on top and those not white down there. The way they tried to create a milieu, an environment where that would still be considered rational, is to depict Black people as non-human and like apes. Because if it's just an ape, why not put it in a cage? I mean, we still have apes in cages in America today. Go to any zoo. So there's a long history of racists trying to depict Black people as not just savages, but as non-humans, as lower forms of animal, therefore not deserving of rights, therefore not deserving of not being in cages or beaten. And this is the context for why so many people are upset about Donald Trump pushing out these images, these videos of the Obamas being apes. It's again, it's not just something that offends the woke left. Senator Tim Scott is a Republican, ran for the Republican nomination for president, voted for Trump, endorsed Trump, supports Trump. You cannot say that Senator Tim Scott is a part of the woke left. Those words have no meaning if you're trying to articulate that. And yet he was wildly offended, as were many, many other Republicans and those who consider themselves conservatives. Even those who consider themselves MAGA and Trump supporters are saying, this is going too far. Let me be blunt with you folks. The only thing that ever surprises me about Donald Trump is that he doesn't get up each morning and start using the N-word freely to describe not only the Obamas, but any Black person he doesn't like. I'm frankly shocked he doesn't use the N-word publicly on a daily basis. Because if the only problem in the world is someone who doesn't like Trump and who is too woke that they're offended by something that Trump does, and if the only good in the world is Trump getting attention, then put two and two together, there's no way he'd get more attention and troll the people he doesn't like than using the N-word freely. Now, he hasn't done that publicly. Yes, I understand there's a lot of rumors about his apprentice days and certain tapes being in vaults where he does use the N-word, but I have no evidence. I have not heard him freely use the N-word to depict Black people or anyone. But it sure seems like it's the next step. It sure seems like that's what he'd like to do, given his propensity for playing into racist tropes. And that is what it is. Again, you can say someone is too sensitive about a lot of issues. You can debate the R word, which wasn't even that controversial a few years ago. N-word is different. Depicting Black people as animals and apes, different. That's been on the naughty list of civilized people for a long time. We're talking decade after decade, 100 years. That's not a shocker. That's not someone saying, oh, I didn't know what trans was till 5 minutes ago. That's not one of those issues. That's been around a long time. And now Trump, being Trump, of course, can't apologize. Of course, has to blame. Oh, it's a staffer. I didn't see it. Really? Folks, this is a show about personal development. And yes, I understand if you get to be president of the United States, at some level, you're successful in your career as a politician. But if you can never, ever, 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 ever admit you made a mistake, you are an absolute unmitigated failure as a human being. You're an absolute unmitigated failure in this game of life. So I'm hoping you're not like, I make mistakes all the time. I made a mistake in the script today. 2 of the issues were blended together and the 6th one got dropped out. I'm sorry. And I'm not going to blame it on a staffer. It's my fault. See there, Donald, it wasn't too hard. You can take credit for mistakes yourself that you've made. And this president never seems to do it. His instinct is always first to double down and say, I was right. Anyone who finds offense to this, there's something wrong with them. That's his usual shtick. Then when he was so criticized by so many other Republicans, fellow travelers, non-woke, non-leftists, non-liberals, non-progressives, that became an untenable position even for Trump. So then it's like, oh, it wasn't my fault. It was a staffer's fault. And I never even saw it in the first place. Therefore, I deserve no blame. That's truly bizarre, my friends. It's truly bizarre, despicable behavior. It's not the behavior of an evolved human being, of someone who is happy with themselves. Now, I'm not the psychoanalyst of our president, and I don't really want to be. I simply want you to be happy. I'm trying to use this show to make all of us a little bit happier. When you make a mistake, own up to it. Don't double down. If your first reaction to any criticism, whatever, is to double down and say, I'm twice as right, and you're pathetic and a loser for even bringing it up, you're not going to be respected ever by the people you probably want the most respect from. So I'm urging you, don't follow this person as an example. Don't let your children follow this person as an example, as a role model. Learn to listen to criticism. Learn to own up to your mistakes. Learn to apologize from time to time. Learn to be accountable for your mistakes. Ultimately, it's going to make you a much better human being and a better person and a happier person. And that's what I want for you. I'm TJ Walker. I'm happy you spent some time with me today, right here on Filtered. If you got any value out of this show, please leave a review, whether you're listening on a podcast or on YouTube or any other platform. And please subscribe, sign up for notifications, and share the show with your friends. Thanks so much. I'll see you right here tomorrow.